Editor-in-Chief Wendy London.
Managing Director of Paragon Trust Company and tax and private client practitioner, joins us to bring a common sense approach to money in a world of total insanity. Let's welcome Tony D'Angelo.
All right, our good pal Tony D joining us each and every Tuesday. And before we get down to what he wants to talk about, which again is going rightfully after the jugular of our governor, I want to thank him, man, because I'll tell you, he did such a great job last Tuesday. Tony, I tell you, all the fill-in hosts, and we got Marty coming on actually after you, as coincidence would have it today. But you did such a fantastic job. People were emailing me and went out of their way to say, man, what a great job you did. So kudos and thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Well, it's and thank you, and proud to be among you. It was so much fun, because I often wondered about what it felt to, what did Dan Ingram feel like? What did George Michael feel like? What did Lee Elci feel like? I now know, and I'm so grateful for that. To every day there's a season. We had a lot of fun, so be it at my expense. We all need a laugh, even though today we're not going to be laughing with what we're going to be discussing.
Well, I just wanted to say that I listened because I wanted to make sure everything was going from I started listening to you as you went on the air and walked my dog for a long walk in the morning, wound up listening to more than half more than that, almost till 9 o'clock, and then a little bit beyond that. So well done, and thank you again.
Oh, you're welcome, and glad to do it for you.
Yeah. All right, so where are we going? Back at the governor?
We're back to SEMA 4, and what we are not told by anyone in this state. SEMA 4 is going public. We've talked about SEMA 4 in the past, and this is an equity interest which is proffered and owned by Oak HCFT, which is Anne Lamont's hedge fund. And there is the part that is known. There is a public offering of they're expecting it to bring $2 billion. It is. We'll get into how the mechanics of that work, but what do we know about SEMA 4? Well, we do know if we go to the state checkbook. $35 million has been, taken from state coffers into SEMA 4. Of that $35 million, $10.5 million is quote-unquote a loan. We know how these loans work in Connecticut. They never get repaid. It's like, well, you have a certain number of people working, so we forgive the loan, notwithstanding the fact that we're giving you the money to employ these people. So, kind of a fat chance of that ever getting paid off. But this was a no-bid contract for largely COVID testing. And when the question was asked to the governor's chief of staff in the summer as to, aren't there other people doing this? We were almost made to feel ashamed for asking the question, that we should be blessed to know that we had SEMA 4, and, how dare we want to impinge the financing of these good people. But anyway, we are going public with SEMA 4, or SEMA 4 is going public. It's expected to be a $2 billion deal. Now, I'm going to throw a finance term. This isn't going to be finance class. It's called a special purpose acquisition company that's doing this, CM Life Sciences. And basically what this is a shell corporation, and they take in the funding from a number of anonymous parties. We have no idea who these parties are. The purpose is to raise capital and to skirt the public offerings. What we do know from the trade papers is that in this offering, the existing SEMA 4 stockholders, Oak, Lamont, Connecticut Innovations, Mount Sinai, the gang of usual suspects, they're walking out the door with $343 million in this, quote-unquote, day one, boom, bang, there it goes. And then the remaining proceeds, come in. Now, what, you can... You can read the Candy Apple Connecticut press. You can listen to members of the political class. You can listen to the deafening silence. What exactly is this organization telling their investors? Because you can lie to these other folks, and you can just sit there and say the moon is of green cheese, and they will not, and they will print it. But you can't lie to the SEC, or at least you can't lie to the SEC to the extent that you can lie to quote unquote Connecticut media. the SEC has to tell its investors the truth, or when they put this document out, as to what are you guys investing in when you're giving money to this corporation. There's documents called red herrings. Now, on the 8K document on page 5, it says the operating market for this is limited. Yeah, it's basically municipal funding that comes in to prop it up. And S1, which is known as, this is really the true red herring, they make a statement and they say, we are a company without any history or profit, and you have no basis to assess profit on. So it's, as well, I mean, there's maybe 10 possible games here, but basically the idea is to get additional funding, keep up with this municipal funding. Remember the thing with Connecticut and Pennsylvania, and just continue to, quote unquote, I'm going to use the term suckers, they could make out in the end or not. But a lot of public offerings go this way. They're a wing, a prayer, and a dream. And, states heavily invested in this thing. Certain players are making money. We have no idea, again, of who's involved in this thing, how many people in the, close to the governor, in the government, in the political. Listen, is Andrew involved? We don't know. There's funds in the Cayman Islands, and I just sit here and say, what about the citizen? What about the tax dollar? What about the public interest? Who cares? Your ball.
So you said municipal funds are part of this. How do we know for sure? Like, where can you
go to the Open Checkbook Connecticut and look up Mount Sinai? I believe it's SEMA 4 Mount Sinai Genomics. As you put in SEMA 4 in the field, right, you'll see the whole thing kind of spill out like Bullwinkle's credit card.
So when you say municipal funds, that you're talking about taxpayer dollars from the state
of Connecticut.
State of Connecticut,
right?
Going straight into this.
Yes.
And not one person other than you, Tony. I think the Hartford Courant may have picked up on something similar to this a couple months ago, but nothing else.
Well, and I thank you thank you for mentioning that. As things drop out of my head, there was an article which I think was largely engendered by kind of the firestorm we had started.
Yeah, it was after you. It wasn't before you. It was after you.
It certainly was,
yeah.
And they referenced an ethics opinion, which really is tissue paper. Because it only covers the main entity. It certainly doesn't cover this, whatever you want to call it, this repurchased entity, because all these guys could be buying back in and then putting our arms up and said, no, we've sold out of there. We have absolutely nothing to do with it.
Right.
And this thing, it gets me so angry, and they hide behind it. I will make this statement. Anybody wanting to come on and debate that ethics opinion, that piece of tissue paper, man, I'm here. Come find me.
So if you had a chance to ask Governor Lamont one question, let's say they call on you, you know how he gives these daily briefings,
right,
and they called on Tony D'Angelo from 94.9, what would you ask him?
I would ask him, why have you never come clean about this? And why is the fact that you said in this...
Well, no, let me ask you, I don't mean to interrupt you, but backtrack a little bit. You would, give me the whole, you preface this by saying, what's your connection with SEMA? How would you go about the whole thing? To pin him down.
Governor Lamont, you claimed that you would you acknowledged this interest after somebody brought it to your attention, and you said, "Oh, it's an omission, and I pledge all the profits to charity."
Right.
And it's I'm doing this for the public good, and you also pledge to keep filing reports as to how you were going to. How you were showing you're clean, and you've done none of it. And now it's very clear that your wife's hedge fund is reaping the benefit of this public offer. Can you explain?
Interesting.
Can you explain? And that's another thing. It's that I have tried. There are ethics forms that are filed, but by elected officials. And wouldn't it be a great thing? Isn't it? Should we not know what elected officials are invested in what and doing business in the state? The only way I think we can do this, we're still looking into it, is to actually pull every single form and, essentially play a game of shake me down. It's terrible. And it's to the point like, hey, the deafening silence is now getting noisy. Well, somebody say something and at least ask the questions. Maybe I'm all wet, but nobody said a word to me.
$1 is too much. Scamming.
Well, that's just it.
But my question is, how much is it total? Do you think? $1 is too much, but how much is it total?
How much is it total? I think it's incalculable. For example, the Fisher Scientific, the Core Informatics. How much of that stock is owned by? Believe me, I would be surprised if it were anything less than $1 billion. That's just a wagon on my part, a wild answered guess, and I'm keeping it clean.
All right, listen. Before we run out of time, I always expected when you get into, I was going to take a call, but both of them dropped off at the same time. So, all right. Well, listen, Tony. We got to keep up on this, and I think that
it's a shame because if where you had said earlier, the whole thing with COVID and opening the economy, if we're not getting an honest read on what we can do and manage better, these guys can keep running this whatever you want to call it, turn the dial up, have more funding come in, and everybody thinks they're doing God's work. It's a shame. It needs to stop, Lee Elci.
Let me give this person one quick. You got like 30 seconds for a question.
I have as much time as he needs.
Good morning.
Hey guys, this is Eric from Miami. Great job as usual. Back in
Eric, you got to get off whatever phone you're on, brother. You got to either get me on a real phone or get off the handheld. Like I barely hear you.
Sorry.
All right, then he's going. Beautiful. All right, listen, Tony. Thank you, pal.
Okay, take care. Bye now.
All right, buddy. Appreciate it. There you go. That's a perfect way to end. He's great.